Hello, Power Up Nation. Pat Council here. And we are still bringing you 51 days of strategies for goal setting and goal achievement, along with recommendations for your personal and business success. These are tools and resources that I have used, I am using, or I have just tried and I think it's amazing and I'm going to use it. So with that being said, let's get on with it. So today I want to talk about how surrendering can help you succeed. In my previous podcast, I talked about how to know who you are, and I gave some insight into that. And I mentioned surrendering, that's one of the things that was necessary in order for you to actually get to know who you really are. And so we are going to talk about surrender. So I said that we would perhaps talk about this later on, but I thought, you know what? Why don't we talk about surrender now? Because I think it's extremely important. So first of all, I want to say that before you can surrender, you have to first become aware. You have to be aware of the fact that you need to surrender. And here's a clue. When things aren't working for you, when you aren't succeeding in life or business, or every direction that you turn in, it seems to be such a struggle, then that's a good strong indication that it's time for you to surrender. Now, I want to give you my caveat. When you're doing something new, if you're starting a brand new business, or if you're taking your business to the next level, there's going to be some challenges. Okay, you're going to have a little bit of struggle. So I don't want to give you this idea that there should never ever be any struggle. Never ever. It should be so smooth. Until you have it just happens because you just got out of bed. No, that's not quite how it works. When you're learning something new, sometimes our minds will fight us tooth and nail to stick to the old way of being. So with that being said, there's going to be some struggle when it's time for you to go to another level. So sometimes it doesn't mean that you have not surrendered. Let's just say it means that you're in learning mode. Okay. So without going deeper into that, which we'll probably go deeper into that in another podcast in the future, let's get back to talking about surrendering. While surrender doesn't always feel good, the beautiful part about surrendering is that in the end, it will help you succeed. You will be happier. You'll find more peace. You'll be just so connected to the real you. And that's extremely important, because when we're not connected to who we really are, who we are designed to be and were designed to be, then other people can manipulate us. Okay, they can manipulate your emotions. They can manipulate your actions. They can tell you anything and you'll believe whatever they say. You won't question it because they're promising you something that you think is going to make you feel better. And while this is not about politics, this is, again, they're such great or examples of that, where you're offered all of these things. And it's funny how people somehow don't notice that, wait a minute, I've been relying on other adults to give me something for, let's say, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50, even 60 years. And somehow I still find something to complain about. That's a good, strong sign that you have not tapped into the real you. And so it's extremely important that we get a clear understanding of what it means to surrender. So I'm going to talk about this briefly, and then I'm going to share a couple of questions that you can ask yourself that would perhaps kind of start to open that door so that you can start really connecting with your most powerful self. Now, here's the thing about understanding surrender, or you stepping into surrender. is that when it's time for you to surrender, first of all, as I said, it doesn't always feel good because that means you have to give up a part of your life. And it's a part of your life that you don't really like it, but you're comfortable with that life. This is how it's always been. This is how we've always done it. And so we're going to keep doing it that way. But if you're not getting the results that you want in your life, then it's important that you be very, very honest with yourself. So surrendering is not necessarily a feel good thing. But the beautiful part about it is once you do surrender, while it may not be a feel good thing, after a while, you wake up one day, you take a deep breath and you go, I'm at peace. I feel good. I have clarity. I know exactly who I was designed to be. I am ready to do life with power. I know I was built by design to win, and I know what my purpose is. And I'm prepared to follow through on that purpose. Because with surrender, it takes a lot of courage to surrender. To give up that person, that part of you that is not really bringing you the best life, the actions, the daily actions that you take, the ideologies and philosophies of life that you are buying into or have bought into to the point where you just do it on autopilot, and all you do is you find reasons to sit around a table or talk on the phone and complain to perhaps friends, families, or anybody will listen. And we're in that kind of time and now, and it's kind of always been that way, but it seems like it's grown. It's like amplified, where people are so dissatisfied with life and how their lives are playing out until they'll complain to a stranger. I don't know about you guys, but it happens to me often. If I go to a grocery store, I don't even know the person who's talking to me in line, or somewhere. If I'm in the bookstore, because I like going to the bookstore, someone will start to complain and tell me about their life. And here's the thing about that. First of all, I think it's kind of rude to inflict your pain on someone else when you're refusing to do anything about it. But on the side of compassion, perhaps that person don't know that they have the power to do something about it. So I kind of understand. So here's the thing: when it comes to surrender, as I said, it's not a feel-good thing. But it becomes a feel-good thing because now you're operating in truth. Because in order for you to truly surrender, that means you have to let go of what's been familiar to you and what's been comfortable, but yet not serving you or bringing you your best life, and your most energetic, exciting life. You have to recognize that this is pure ego. When we live from pure ego, no one is ever satisfied when they're living from their ego. The ego will always keep you in survival mode. The ego is designed to protect you. And I've talked about this on previous podcasts about the purpose of the ego. So it's designed to tell you, don't cross the street. There's a car coming, or, it's not safe for you to go out after a certain time or be in a certain place at night, something like that. So the ego is supposed to protect you. But what happened is, I think a lot of us, when we were growing up, things happened in our lives. And the ego was the thing that protected us from future pain. So we allowed the ego to rule. We allowed the ego to dominate. And that includes me. And at some point in my life, I had to say, wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. And I need to do something differently. I need to think about what I really want my life to be like. I need to take the time to design my life. So this is why we're talking about this now, because we're coming up on the end of the year. And as you start to think about what you really want to achieve, the goals that you truly want to set, those goals need to be energetic. They need to be exciting. And you need to understand that every goal you set, if you set a goal from a position of authenticity and pure intention, you're going to take inspired action every time. I mean, every time, even when you don't feel like it, you're going to do something Okay. And when you do have your downtime, it's going to feel good. You're going to feel like you've earned it, like you deserve it. And actually, in some cases, you're going to have to tug your own coattail and say, you know what? Let's take a break, because we love what we're doing so much, because we are in our element. We are operating in our God-given purpose. And man, what took me so long to get here? And so you're going to want to keep doing it as though it's all play, because that's what it feels like. And don't get me wrong, it is work. It is going to bring you a great return, but it still feels fun. I love what I do, and I also like taking a break, but I have to tug my own coattail and say, you know what? Take a break, no work. So with that being said, I want to convey to you guys how important it is for you to take the time to surrender. When we surrender, it's about getting rid of all the labels. In other words, putting yourself in this box, or getting in this box that someone else has put you in. Race, gender, telling you what you can and can't do, telling you what you know versus what you don't know, what you can learn, what you can't learn, and deciding that that we're all so one dimensional to the point where we're predictable. And who cares what other people think? But the point that I'm getting to here is that what happens is you actually start to discover you, because you don't feel like you have to fit in that box that someone else created for you. You feel like you can take the label off. The other thing it does when you surrender is you're allowed to feel. If something unpleasant has happened to you and you've been denying it or pretending, oh, my life is good and everything is so perfect. Now, this doesn't mean you go around and become the voice of doom and gloom around everybody else, but you are allowed to take a moment and even be with yourself and grieve through that period so you can put it behind you. And it is so important for us to put things behind us. Anytime we continue to hold on to the past, there's no growth in that, because who grows going backwards? I've never met anybody who's done that successfully. You may have, but I haven't. And so it is important to surrender. The thing about surrendering is that at this point, when you say, you know what, it's almost as if you say, okay, I don't know what to do next. I'm up against this wall, and you know what? I'm tired of fighting, and I'm going to let go. And then when you let go, at that point, you feel these feelings, as I said, that don't necessarily feel good, but at some point they dissolve. Okay. And the reason why, and when they dissolve, what happens is these are all feelings and energies that don't serve you, that you've been holding on to. And once they dissolve, now, oh man, all of a sudden these high energy, this high energy comes into play. You're excited about life. You're happy. You're joyful. As I said, you have a sense of peace. You see a reason to be kind instead of being angry. People who have not surrendered or can sometimes be angry people, okay, and don't even know they're angry, okay. And so these are the people that complain a lot because there's something they haven't surrendered to. Or you can listen to them. They start to tell you what I call old school stories. Or they constantly talk about traditions that actually doesn't serve anyone. And well, when I was a kid, my mom always told me I shouldn't do X, Y, Z. She told me this about men. Or my dad always told me, I heard him talk about women and blah, 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 blah. Okay, you know what? These things kind of impact you in the sense that they cause you to adopt negative emotions, negative feelings. But when we surrender, we let all of that go. And when you let all of that go, you feel amazing. Okay? Okay, after the pain part. And I think a lot of people don't surrender is because they don't want to go through that little piece right there. They don't want to feel any more pain. Because here's the I guess the catch-22. They are in some kind of pain, okay, and they're just going through the motions, and they've placed their life in this comfort zone on autopilot, which means, see, when you're on autopilot, there's no reason for you to think. And when there's no reason for you to think, there's no reason for you to feel. And so you can always squash those powerful feelings down. So I know when I started talking about surrender, I guess you guys may have been expecting something different, but the reality of it is, you have to go through all of it. Okay. And instead of denying who you really are, instead of denying what you really want to do in your life and with your life, now you're free to say, this is what I've always wanted to do. I have actually coached people who told me that they have no idea. And they said, well, and these, when I'm doing the life coaching, not on the business side, some people come to me for life coaching because they're saying, you know what, I want to start a business and I know I'm supposed to start a business, but I don't know what it is. And then you know what, it only takes us a few minutes to find out. And actually, I shouldn't say a few minutes, but it's more like a couple of hours. But we go through the process and we start to uncover some things. And so then we find out, oh, wait, this is what I've always really wanted to do. But someone talked me out of doing it because they said I would never make any money at it. Or they said people don't get paid a lot for doing that. Or they said, well, this is what your dad did or your mom did, or, and you look like your uncle or your aunt. So perhaps this is what you should do, what they're doing, which is really silly to me that people harp on the fact that, oh, you look just like your dad. And so what? I mean, it's great. It's a great compliment, but don't assume that because I look like someone that that's my life. Don't condemn me to that life. And so, but in all fairness, no one can condemn you to a life. You have to accept it. And that's the beauty of surrender. Surrender allows you to bring in the right kind of acceptance. So with that being said, let me give you a couple of questions that you can ask yourself. And this will help you realize if it's important for you to surrender, if that's one of the things that's holding you back. Because once you go through this process, then you will actually find that setting goals, as I said, will be a lot easier. Achievement is going to be a lot easier. And I got to throw in another caveat. Just because achievement is going to be easier does not mean that you won't have to work, because you will still have to work at it and you'll have to learn some new things. But because you've surrendered, guess what? It's easier because you've moved your ego out of the way. And instead of going into what I call it, the I know it syndrome or the I know it phase, the person where you're telling them, okay, well, if you do this, this, and this, or you're teaching them something that they want to learn, and they go, yeah, I know that. And I can tell you when people say that to me, I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. In my head, I'm thinking, if you know it, then why aren't you doing it? Okay. And if you know it, then explain it to me. And usually I allow people to explain it to me because I'm not there to make someone be successful. But usually when people are saying, I know it, I know that, what they're doing is they're putting up this huge wall and they're fighting against their own success. They don't really know it. They just feel embarrassed that they don't know it and they think they perhaps should have known it. But when you surrender, you don't go through that. You're not sitting around feeling as though you need to know everything. You just let go and learn. So here are the questions. The first question I think it's important that you ask yourself is, am I telling myself the truth about myself, about me? And you want to ask yourself, am I telling myself the truth about me? Because you really need to know who you are. And that's going to really kind of start to put something in your mind that says, you know what? We need to surrender. We need to let go. And so when you ask yourself that question, then you need to also ask yourself the question a different way. Because sometimes we have to trick our mind. And so the different way that you would ask yourself that question is, what is the truth that I've been unwilling to admit? And then write these answers down and see what you're putting on that paper. And here's another question. Why am I having such a problem admitting the truth about myself? because you want to know what's stopping you. And that's going to start to reveal to you what's holding you back. That's going to start revealing to you the things that you don't want to face. And see, I know I'm making this sound like, oh my goodness, something bad's going to happen. But you know what? No, the Bible says ye shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Now it's talking about the truth of who you are, who God made you to be, and understanding your power. So when you know the truth, it's the truth about you. So we have been taught, and you know, it's funny, I'm going to stop saying a short show because usually my plan is to end in like 10 or 15 minutes. And so we're wrapping up now. But usually, because we don't want to face the truth about ourselves, in other words, I know people who are amazing at something. And because they're believing the outside world, they downplay who they are. But when you embrace the truth about who you really are, now you're going to learn what you need to learn, take the inspired action, and you're going to be more successful in life and business. These are things that I had to learn because nobody taught me these things. Okay. Instead, when you're growing up, all you do is you get criticized for not doing what you're supposed to do, which is kind of weird. It's like, okay, you're like the adult. You're supposed to be giving me some guidance, not yelling at me. But that's another story for another time. Okay. This is what happens when you surrender, you guys. All of a sudden, truth just spills right out of your mouth. But ask yourself those questions because you really want to start to empower yourself. And then the final question to ask yourself, and this is where you start to set a goal, is now that I've discovered some truths about myself, what actions will I begin to take such that I don't stop myself from going to the next level, such that you don't stop your own evolution. And so that's extremely important. And so listen, this is all I have for you guys today, but I want to tell you that I have something coming up that I'm going to share with you guys, and you can actually go and kind of dig a little deeper, more deeply into the idea of surrender. And so I'll be announcing that probably in a few days, next week. So with that being said, I want you guys to have an amazing day. Answer these questions, take the time to write them out, and you're going to see what kind of goals you really want to set. You're going to be excited about setting your goals this time. Okay. Not that you weren't before, but these are going to be more authentic and they're going to really push you toward inspired action. So with that being said, I want you guys to have an amazing day, a magnificent day, and do life with power because you're built by design to win.